Donald Trump began openly pressuring Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to make concessions to the Kremlin. Trump stated today that Moscow is seeking to make a peace deal and that the Ukrainian side, in order not to lose the chance to end the war, needs, as he put it, to take action. Supposedly, Vladimir Putin really wants peace, but Zelensky refuses. Trump made it clear that if Ukraine doesn't hurry, he will be disappointed and will leave the negotiations. And for Trump to be satisfied, Ukraine needs to hold a presidential election and a referendum by summer, but of course, without any security guarantees. And then suddenly, news appears that the United States of America and Russia are holding parallel trade negotiations. And Washington has made it clear to Kyiv that it will not sign a security guarantee agreement to protect against future Russian aggression until Ukraine and Russia reach an agreement to end the war. And Donald Trump today, with a straight face, declares that the United States is even ready to ratify security guarantees in the United States Congress, but only after signing a peace agreement with Moscow. And even in Washington, there are those who don't understand Donald Trump's position. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham stated that Vladimir Putin is seeking to capture all of Ukraine. And to stop him, the United States must finally supply Ukraine Tomahawk cruise missiles with a range of up to 2,500 kilometers for strikes on Russian military targets, primarily for strikes on drone production facilities. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start this episode, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave any comment under this video. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. So, United States President Donald Trump has once again stated that Moscow, specifically Moscow, is seeking to make a peace deal. But for the Ukrainian side, in order not to lose this chance to end the war, it is necessary to take action and agree. Here is a quote from Trump: "Russia wants to make a deal and President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky should move forward, otherwise he will miss a great opportunity and he will have to act." This is how Donald Trump answered the question about whether Washington still demands that Zelensky hold presidential elections before the summer. And in this way, Trump essentially confirmed the rumors that had appeared the day before. And the day before, Ukrainian and Western officials told the Financial Times that Kyiv is indeed preparing to hold presidential elections and a referendum on a peace agreement with the Russian Federation as early as the spring of 2026. According to them, Zelensky may officially announce this on February 24, that is, on the 4th anniversary of the start of Russian aggression. But, as sources say, before that, the Trump administration demanded that Ukraine hold both votes by May 15 and complete peace negotiations with Russia by the summer. Later, Zelensky himself denied this information to the newspaper and stated the following, quote, "I have said many times about the elections. We will hold elections when there are all the necessary security guarantees." According to him, the issue of elections is raised more often by Ukraine's allies, not by Ukraine itself. Zelensky emphasized that the key condition for holding the vote remains the issue of security. And here the question arises: in which direction should Ukraine act? So, when Trump says that Ukraine needs to act in a certain direction, whether to hold elections or a referendum, or to agree to concessions to the Kremlin and withdraw troops from the Donetsk region, what should be done? Well, for example, another round of negotiations is already scheduled in Geneva for February 17 and 18. And now, instead of the head of the main directorate of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, Admiral Igor Kostyukov, who led the Russian negotiators in Abu Dhabi, the delegation will be headed by someone else. This time, the Russian delegation will again be led by the assistant to the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Medinsky, who is considered a supporter of the so-called hardline negotiation approach. These are the ones who give pseudo-historical lectures, say they don't care, present us with an ultimatum, saying it's only this way and no other, otherwise the war will continue. And now the Kremlin is trying to do something to disrupt these negotiations, but to blame everything on Ukraine. But Trump didn't stop there. And now Politico reports that Washington has made it clear to Kyiv that it will not sign a security guarantees agreement with it to protect against future Russian aggression. Until Ukraine and Russia reach an agreement, agree to end the war, there will supposedly be a peace agreement already signed. Then Trump, that's 100%. Just take my word for it, he will 100% give security guarantees, but first of all, Moscow is not showing any willingness for peace, and on the other hand, in Washington. And by the way, Zelensky recently admitted that the security guarantees themselves have not yet been fully outlined. And it's funny that the White House stated that Donald Trump is not, don't get me wrong, trying to use the security guarantees agreement as leverage over Volodymyr Zelensky, although that's exactly what it looks like. And here is the official statement from the White House. Before signing the security guarantees agreement, the United States President wants many issues to be finally agreed upon and settled. And now the most crucial part. Trump doesn't just want to sign it. After all, if this hinders further peace negotiations, then what's the point? And this is where the real essence of Donald Trump's demands to Ukraine lies. Moscow, as you know, is not backing down from its demands to Ukraine to surrender all of Donetsk and Luhansk regions, the entire Donbass. That's why the peace process is currently stalled and Moscow is taking a rather tough stance. But the key point is that Moscow, through the words of Lavrov and Peskov, has stated that it does not support security guarantees for Ukraine from the United States. And now I repeat to you once again the statement from the White House. Trump simply doesn't want to sign it, because if it hinders further peace negotiations, then what's the point? Well, to rephrase, the Russians are against it, so Trump doesn't want to sign it, and then, what if it turns out that Trump doesn't want to sign it now, and later just won't, and we end up signing a peace agreement ourselves? He'll say, oh yes, of course, I promised security guarantees, but I didn't promise any specific ones. So let me just say in words that I promise, and that's it. And here is another important point. Negotiations between Russia, Ukraine, and the United States will take place on February 17th to 18th in Geneva, and the Russian delegation will again be headed by Vladimir Medinsky. According to Reuters, by appointing Medinsky as the head of the delegation, Russia hopes to shift the focus of the discussion from security issues to broader topics that cause disagreements between the parties. So, the strategy is to blur the topics of the negotiations as much as possible again. Right now, the negotiations have become too specific, too focused, too stuck on security issues like disengagement of forces, ceasefire, monitoring, and so on. That's why the Kremlin decided that, listen, the focus needs to be shifted to some more general topics. Let Medinsky give some pseudo-historical lectures there, discuss the status of the Russian language, some Russian Orthodox Church in Ukraine, and so on and so on. And here I'll quote former United States Ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul, who commented on Medinsky's appointment as head of the Russian delegation at the negotiations, quote, "I was disappointed to hear that. In my opinion, Mr. Medinsky is not a serious negotiator. He has already been one before and achieved no results. His return tells me that Vladimir Putin is not taking these negotiations seriously." The United States wants to pressure Moscow and Kyiv so that the parties reach an agreement before June, but putting pressure on Ukraine is not a wise step from the perspective of United States national interests. And we need to give more weapons to Ukraine and impose more sanctions against Russia. Why are we always putting pressure on Ukraine and never on Putin? Should the United States put more pressure on Russia? And now, a Republican senator, the well-known Lindsey Graham, has stated that Vladimir Putin is trying to capture all of Ukraine. And to stop him, the United States should provide Ukraine with Tomahawk cruise missiles to strike Russian military targets. Quote, "I want to provide Ukraine with Tomahawks. I want the United States to supply Tomahawks so they can strike the infrastructure that Putin relies on for producing drones and everything else. I want to change the balance of power." But unfortunately, as we heard today, Donald Trump once again insists that Vladimir Putin and Russia want peace, and therefore it is Ukraine that should make concessions. Well, that's it for now. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you found this episode interesting and informative, you can support our YouTube channel with your donation or by purchasing a paid or sponsorship subscription through the links and details in the description of this video. I will be grateful for any support from you. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.